So Einstein figured out the theory of relativity and E equals mc squared. Pretty good for him. I found out something that I'm pretty proud of, a formula all my own, and here it is. Race plus gender equals money and power, huh? You like it? Well, get used to it because that is what's happening. That's the key, really, to understanding what's happening right now in so much of American culture. And I don't like it. I want to take you to Franklin, Tennessee. Take a look at this couple. Two guys, one of whom decided to show up at the prom in a dress. That's his choice, right? Anyway, created a bit of a commotion. Somebody at the hotel didn't like it. There he is showing off a bit of leg. Now, the man who steps forward, it's unclear exactly what he's saying or what's being said to him. You'll see him in a moment. He's wearing kind of a grayish shirt. He's a middle-aged man. His name is Sam Johnson. Now, at this point, he's the CEO of a medical services firm in Nashville, Tennessee. But because of how he behaved here, he lost his job. That's an outrage. Take a look at what cost him his job. Here's the moment.
I chose what I want to wear so you can off. Okay? Okay.
Is that right?
Think he looks gross?
That's my boy.
Looks disgusting? Yeah?
Yeah. You look like.
I look like what? What is off? What is
You look like an idiot.
Get the away from me. What does he look like?
Please stop.
Oh! Do not look. No, sir. No, sir. I can towards you all I want. Away. Keep talking.
Please, please.
Pull it up.
Look like a moron. Get away.
Come on. Please. Listen.
Stop. Please.
It's just prom.
This is a special night.
It's kids. It's a bunch of kids. Come on, dude.
Just don't let one thing bother you. Please.
All right, that's it. At some point, I think he said the guy looked like an idiot, all right? Which I don't disagree. We're going to meet this man in a moment. Here's what his employer put out after this video went mega viral on social media. This man lost his job. Again, Sam Johnson. Visual put out this statement, and I think it's pretty absurd. We unequivocally condemn the behavior exhibited by Sam Johnson. Now, you just saw what he did. I mean, was it that bad? Really? The Visual Board of Directors has chosen to terminate Mr. Johnson from his position as CEO, effective immediately. Immediately, wow. Visual culture emphasizes respect, kindness, and compassion. What about truth, justice, and freedom and liberty? No. We maintain a zero-tolerance policy for intolerance of any kind. Can we stay on that for a moment? A zero-tolerance policy for intolerance of any kind. We will not tolerate intolerant. I don't know, there's something about that that's a little much. Next, please. Goes on. We look forward to announcing concrete steps we are taking in support of the LGBTQ community. Talk about an overreaction. Now, Sam Johnson has a side of this story. He says those kids were acting up. They were being very vulgar. They were drinking, creating a scene. He had his family there, and he didn't like it. Are we going to make it illegal to call somebody an idiot who might be acting idiotically? I like Sam Johnson. At this point, I'm on his side, and we're going to meet him in a little bit. We'll talk about what happened, and we'll talk about his former employer, Visuel. Let me make sure that you get this. Visuwell. Visual. They're online, and they got a social media presence. So we'll talk to Sam Johnson. Again, the CEO fired from that company just a little bit ago. All right, so it was gender plus race equals money and power, and let's tackle the race issue, at least the commercialization of it. Ben Crump, I think, is public enemy number one. Do you know about this guy? He's a lawyer running around America tearing up this country. I think what he's done is incentivize people to take action, to sue police departments right away. You know, George Floyd, we all know what happened to him should not have happened to him, okay? I said so from the get-go. I was freaked out by that tape. I did see some evidence later that maybe told, hey, maybe he wasn't totally, maybe there was some exculpatory evidence, but I have no problem with the verdict whatsoever. But this thing has been very disruptive. $27 million to George Floyd. That's how much the Minneapolis city gave the George Floyd family. Now that is off the charts ridiculous. It is. The time, I believe, of his death, George Floyd was essentially unemployed. You know how they make these calculations as to how much money one gets. What are future earnings likely to be? How many dependents? That kind of thing. $27 million, that's a political statement. And if there was no publicity here, the same facts, there's no way he would have gotten $27 million. So everybody seems to be going for the power and for the money. NBC Nightly News, speaking of the power, Lester Holt has been using this as, I believe, a wedge issue to help his ratings also, and also to enhance his status within NBC News. Their ratings are suffering, and who knows, they may be thinking about replacing Lester. But he's a black man right now, talking about issues affecting black people. Last night, 3 stories about police shootings in a row.
The fatal police shooting of a black man in a small North Carolina town last week is fueling new questions over transparency after officials today allowed select family members to view police body cam video of the incident. More than a year after Breonna Taylor was killed by Louisville police, the Justice Department announced a sweeping investigation into that city's police department. Body cam video also at the center of another police shooting in Virginia, a man fighting for his life after his family says a deputy mistook a cordless phone for a gun.
The first 3 stories about controversial police shootings. Wow. Now, is it just about that's interesting to people? This is what, journalism calls for, those 3 stories? Or is it about what we talked about, the money, the power, the fame? I think it's those things, quite frankly, especially the money. The incentive is there for these lawyers and for these families.
With all these killings going on, I never expected this to happen so close to home. Like, he left a close and tight family with each other every day, talking to each other every day. I just want justice. I just want justice.
I'm sorry for the loss, but it strikes me that so many of these families, when the lawyers show up and the media show up, sounds like they're talking from a script. And remember this, there is a huge incentive for saying these types of things and acting this way. $27 million for George Floyd? Everybody knows that he got that kind of money, his family did. And they want it for themselves. And quite frankly, you know what? I'm not sure if I blame them. If that money is up for grabs, why not try to get some, huh? And more on the political power. Ben Crump, I think, is making a lot of money, but other characters are emerging. Have you ever heard of Bakari Sellers? Bakari Sellers is a lawyer and a former South Carolina office holder. He held state office in South Carolina. And now he's representing the Brown family, and they lost someone. And well, take a look at this.
I wish we were somewhere else. I wish Ben Crump wasn't so famous. I wish we had a week where black folk weren't just dying at the hands of law enforcement.
All right. And here's Mr. Bakari as a Trump-hating contributor to CNN.
Racism is a question of power, not a question of attitude. And so when we say that the president of the United States is racist, it's because he harbors these views and he has the power to implement policy which subjugate these people to oppressive systems.
Sounds a little bit different on TV than he did at that press conference, which was also televised. Now, what does this mean for the rest of us, people who are not involved in this case? Well, increase in crime, a dramatic increase in crime. We've all seen it. If you live, especially in an urban area, you can feel it. And how about cops? Nobody seems to respect them anymore, and everybody picking on them. Take a look at this. New York City police detective investigating a robbery and just bashed in the head. He's got a gash, was treated for minor injuries. 25-year-old man is in custody, at least for now. These things tend to go fairly quick here in New York. Would that have happened had it not been for the climate and the stuff that we've seen, the media have been exaggerating over the past year? I don't think so. And there's a practical effect. Nobody wants to be a cop, coast to coast. Recruitment is way, way down. They used to have massive classes of cops. Everybody wanted to be a New York City police officer. They're having a lot of trouble filling these academy classes. And take a look at this. Everyone's leaving the job. NYPD experiences a 75% increase in departures and retirements, and they're seeing that coast to coast. All right, folks, much more to talk about. We are going to be seeing Sam Johnson, that man wrongly, we believe, terminated from that big job in Tennessee because he called somebody a name. Big deal. Stay with us.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.